And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Put your thumbs up and say it's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, Tickety Boo, everything's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, son. Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo! You ever promised yourself a day off, only to spend the whole thing feeling guilty for not doing more? Yep, rest is meant to recharge us, but somehow it's become just another thing to stress about. We've been trained to see rest as luxury, something we have to earn. But that's just nonsense. Rest isn't lazy, it's survival. So today, we're breaking it down, why rest feels so hard, and why we now need it more than ever. This is Tickety Boo, so let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Tickety Boo. I'm here with Iona, Barney and Ian, and today we're going to be talking about why is it that rest feels so hard, especially at a point in our lives when we need it more than ever, and why we get trapped on this hamster wheel and all of the guilt we feel when we take time out and the chronic stress that we create in our lives when we refuse to relax. When I was looking at the show notes for this episode, the first thing that jumped up in sort of stats and facts is that the chronic stress of not taking rest causes your prefrontal cortex to shrink, the part of the brain that does rational thinking and helps you regulate emotion. I was like, there must have been a point in my life when my prefrontal cortex probably erased itself. Why is it, I mean, what do you think? Why is it we find it so hard to press the pause button and take time out doing very little?
I just think we live in a society where we kind of value ourselves on how much that we get to achieve. That's what it is, and you sort of just never stop. You've always got social media and everything else. You're accessible 24/7, so you should feel that you should be doing something productive constantly. Yeah,
so almost like there's this sense, if I'm not doing, I'm sliding back the way, I'm not maintaining where I'm at in my life.
And losing sight of the fact that rest is actually incredibly productive.
Well, I would argue it's actually the biggest investment that you can actually make. But it's almost become now like rest is sort of like this taboo thing that we don't do because we're working hard and we're striving. So therefore that's the first thing that gets sacrificed. Or is it we've forgotten how to rest?
I think people get caught up. So I'm in my menopause, so then I've got a whole other different level of rest where, you know, sleep is an issue. Yesterday I felt amazing. I had 8 solid hours sleep. It's probably the first time in forever. And I was all excited that last night I'd get like 8 hours sleep and come here like fighting fit and ready. Didn't quite work out like that. Wasn't too bad. But I know personally that I really struggle when I haven't had enough sleep. And that's just sleep. I'm not talking like when we get to rest, where we take pauses, where we stop working. There's like some great apps out there, like work for 25 minutes, take a break. And I think as mothers, so I'm going to talk from this point of it, is when we start having children, we're so focused, like it's a 24-hour job, 7 days a week. We don't get a break. And I think us as women, we end up, those of us who've been mothers or are mothers, we just are in that cycle taking care of everybody else's needs. We generally don't take time to rest or pause because there's always something happening. I mean, goodness knows we can't go for a wee without, you know, the little ones following us. And then we just end up on that cycle and we're not sleeping because maybe our wee ones don't sleep through the night. And then we continue. And my gosh, it's like I know I don't make good decisions when I haven't slept well. I start getting stressed. You get overwhelmed really easily. I love that fact that you found out. So I feel it's a pattern we get on. And also something I found as well is as soon as we do start to pause, I mean, how many other people have you found that you go on holiday and you get sick?
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, because we're always on.
Yeah.
Nervous system's always primed, and as soon as you stop, everything kind of crashes. Teachers are quite famous for that. You know, this hustle through the school term. They get to the holidays, and then the first few days they get a cold or something. I mean, I can personally remember going, I'm going to take some time off to relax, and then sit there and spend the whole day planning a year's worth of work.
Yeah.
Can you think of a time us guys and the people listening and watching, where you actually took time out and relaxed, where you didn't have your phone in front of you, the TV wasn't on, you weren't scrolling social media, all of that stuff that you do every day in life, you just completely detached yourself from it.
Last month, I was lucky enough to go to the south of Spain, and my most favourite moment, I was there with some of the girlfriends. We were having a brilliant time. We were just kind of doing our own thing. We weren't there like to party. We weren't there like, even we were hanging out together separately. Like sometimes we were reading, sometimes we were doing other things. But I had an amazing moment on the beach. I went for sunrise my last morning, so I hadn't quite managed to get up any other morning. And I sat there for an hour, and oh my gosh, it was euphoric. And I hadn't planned it that way. I'd kept wanting to get up for sunrise and didn't quite. But it was just a really great reminder. It's like I get to take more breaks than I do. And it was medicine for my soul. And yes, it was lovely because it was sunny, and quite frankly, it was grey in the UK. But I have managed to do more of that definitely this last year, definitely since my brother died. And I find that, and we notice it, I know we've all seen it in our family, our friends and our clients, that if people aren't taking time to rest, to pause, to recharge themselves, I mean, we charge our phones, for goodness sake, that they end up getting overwhelmed, they get stressed, they get burnt out, grumpy, that would be me, unhappy, depressed, like all these symptoms that come from that lack of rest. And I think really that's why there's been an upsurge in the term, biohacking, intermittent fasting, as we've talked about before. If we don't take time to rest, actually usually something happens, like you hurt your back, you end up in a wheelchair for an accident. Something monumental will happen where we have no choice but to pause.
We take better care of the battery on our smartphones than we do our own battery. So if you have a bad charging cycle with your smartphone, the battery ends up getting damaged. We're exactly the same. We are exactly the same, but I just feel we've got to this point in life where we've forgotten how to relax and switch off. I mean, in the therapy room just now, I'm getting clients coming in after Christmas, and the amount of them that are saying to me, the usual chat that you have, how was your Christmas, how was your New Year? Oh, it was all right, but those days in between Christmas and New Year, I started to get quite tetchy. What do you mean? Well, I was unable to relax. I felt like I should be doing something, or was tempted to do a bit of work. I had some self-employed tradesmen that go, I wanted to go back to work, and I'm sort of like, because that's your body on the come down from all the stress that you've been putting it through, and what you want to do is go, I don't like the way that this feels, so I want to go and top the system up and go and be stressed and do more work. It's this always on.
I had a young mum that I was working with a couple of years ago, and one of the things I was inviting her to do is just in the morning take 3 conscious breaths, because quite often people aren't breathing like deeply, their breath can be quite shallow. And I was like, just when you wake up, just breathe like 3 breaths, like really deeply, be really aware of filling your belly. And she said, I don't have time. And I'm like, well, when you're in the shower. She literally complained that she didn't have time to breathe just 3 breaths and make a point of it. I was like, oh my gosh, like you need to slow down. You need to make yourself a priority here, because this is not going to go well. Like we're breathing anyway, maybe just like checking in. It sounds
knowingly breathing, taking time to actually do it, rather than running downstairs and grabbing junk food, to actually spend a bit of time to grab something that's healthy for you. We've always got time. She's obviously telling herself a story.
She was
at that point. And I think you were going to say something that is.
I was going to go back to this, the first question, which was when was the last time you actually rested without being on social media? And it just made me think for a second. Yeah, I'm super guilty of that. I'm one of these people that feel that rest has to be earned.
Yeah.
So I can't just wake up and say, right, I'm just going to chill today. I feel I have to do something constructive with the day. So whether it's going out and cleaning the cars or,
it's like there's this sense that there's always something that's.
It's always a play off it. And then after all of that, I'll sit down and then I'll try and relax my mind, and I'll pick up my phone and I'll play Tetris or look on Facebook or something like that to fill the void, which is actually the relaxation that we need.
Yeah, and I think technology definitely feeds into this inability to relax and switch off.
I
It
saw a
keeps drawing
great
us in.
TikTok around this actually,
Right.
where I think it was a comedian was just sort of saying, we didn't have mindfulness. They didn't talk about mindfulness when we were growing up because every day was at least 50% mindfulness because we were bored. Like we didn't have all these things to fill it. He obviously said it very funny, but he was, bang on point because technology just fills up so much of that space.
Yeah, I was looking at your holiday pictures on social media. Some of them looked pretty amazing, and it kind of got me thinking. Like, if you went on that holiday 30 years ago, the only thing you would have had to distract you from the holiday was your camera to take photographs.
Yeah.
But now you've got your camera that can take photographs, that delivers emails to you, that delivers messages to you, that delivers social media interaction to you, that's bringing in phone calls. So we've got these technology, these devices, these rectangles that we carry in our pocket that don't allow you to be truly present in the moment of that thing.
Well, one of the highlights of that holiday, to be honest, was I had a few moments where I was completely present and that in the moment, and they were
fantastic.
They weren't necessarily. Well, the one of them was the hot air balloon. So we went up on a hot air balloon, not the most adrenaline fueled thing in the world, but it's fantastic. We were looking down over the Nile on one side and the Valley of the Kings on the other, and I did have my phone out, but that was to take pictures.
Yeah, capture the memory.
And I was trying to take the best picture I could because I'm trying to learn how to take pictures. But I was 100% just focused on the then and there, and that is one of the. And I had moments of that when we were at the pyramids or different temples. Suddenly, the whole scale of everything would just overwhelm me, and I'd be stuck in the here and now. And they were that feeling that I had attached to each of those different activities were all my highlights.
Do you think? I mean, it's amazing that you've got a camera there to capture those moments, but ironically, even the camera
is a distraction.
Is a distraction from actually being 100% present in that
As
moment.
I was speaking, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I mean, it's lovely to have the photograph and the memory, but to be completely just in that moment, absorbed in it, not thinking about this will make a great Facebook picture or whatever it is, just to be truly in that moment, because that's not something we've been able to do since we were probably kids. Mm-hmm. There's been many moments and experiences where it's like, I don't need to share it with anybody, I don't need to photograph it, I don't need to post about it, don't need to talk about it, I can just be fully in this moment. And we kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent, but that leads into it, doesn't it? This inability just to be in the moment and just relax. Just sit with the person and have a conversation. Watch the TV programme. Enjoy the walk. How many times have you been on a walk and you've got somebody's rang you, or you're scrolling social media, or you're checking an email or something while you're on that? So you're on a walk, but you're not truly present in the walk, or the food, or the conversation.
Well, surely by definition, you can only be truly relaxing or in a relaxed state if you are in the present. Mm-hmm. If you're thinking about yesterday or what you just did or what you're going on to, that's not relaxing. Mm-hmm. That's still your brain functioning and continuing to kick over and just not letting go. Yeah. Which is what you need to do. So the only way that you can truly relax, surely, is just being in the present. Mm-hmm. There and then. Yeah. So.
And I think that's why that moment for me on the beach at sunrise was so amazing, because that was it. I was just sat there.
But isn't it
not
sad?
Doing or being anything.
It's kind of sad that these moments are glancing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could probably count them on one hand how many you've had genuinely in the past 5 years, for argument's sake, where maybe actually they should be not the norm, but a lot more frequent than they are.
But you talk about being the norm. You look at other cultures that aren't quite so focused on the hustle culture.
Yeah.
For example, in the Mediterranean, they have siesta. So they'll go away and they'll actually build rest into the day. They ritualise rest as part of the functioning day.
Yeah.
I love going to places where they have siestas because you hear some of the holiday makers complaining. It's like, oh my gosh, the shops are shut. I'm like, no, this is brilliant. It's siesta time. Like, we do nothing.
Do you think the issue is that we see rest as something we need to earn?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm going to push myself so far and do so much, and then I've earned to rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say yes, and I think that's probably why even when I first started out in this industry, one of the first things I always do with all my clients is it's about looking at what their routine is and how we can incorporate, whether they want to call it rest or meditation or being present, or if they want to do painting, something, be creative, because when you're doing that in itself can be a very present state. You're there painting as opposed to thinking about all the things, going for a walk, like doing these things, because I found that has been the only way for people to make lasting change, particularly when they're first starting out and want to, because they get so busy being busy and they think they should be doing something. But it's actually that slowing down, and I know you and I've talked about this over the years, like way back when. It is so important for people to pause, and I think that's even why when we first started out, like we each had meditations people could download. I've actually got that even now, and it is that pause to prosper, because I'm finding more and more people have been getting faster and faster. And it's like, no, we stop, we create space.
Do you think there is a difference between physical and mental rest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly where I was about to go with that.
Yeah.
So active rest, going to the gym, going for a walk, it doesn't have to be just sort of sitting there, just something that takes your focus away from the day-to-day grind.
Yeah.
And gives you that little bit of space for yourself.
I mean, different things for different people. For me, mental rest is the ability to step away from technology. My iPhone. So one of the things I purchased just before Christmas was something that fundamentally bricks my iPhone. So it's on the fridge and I can walk up to my iPhone and I tap it and it takes out of my iPhone. There's an app and basically you decide what you want to be able to continue to work when you brick your phone. So you can still phone me or text me, but it takes out Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, all this other stuff, and it fundamentally becomes a phone. And then I can go out and do something or be in another room. And then when I want to go to that technology, I physically have to go back and tap my phone on the brick. It's just a magnetic thing. And I have to say, it's a total game changer, because there's been times where I've picked up going, oh, I'll check my social media. Oh, I can't. No. I can't access it. So for me, mental rest is unplugging from technology. Physical rest for me is being able to go out. One, the ability to have a lie-in if I want to. I'm really bad at lie-ins, but to be able to go out for a walk or just to sit with a tea or a coffee with a sense of space between what I'm doing. I find it difficult to rest my mind doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find my mind sometimes gets busier at those times. There's a bit of practice. My mind just needs something to be in.
Yeah, for me personally, physical rest is the way for me. I've got quite a lot going on at the moment. I've got a lot of stress with one of my other businesses. So I find if I sit there with nothing else to occupy my mind, anxiety wins.
Yeah.
Do you know the phrase, busy hands, quiet mind?
Yeah.
So sometimes that will creep in. So at these points of high stress, for me personally, I find going to the gym, being with a good friend that I train with, offloading to him, he offloads to me. And I personally find that really good for me at times of stress. But when I'm not stressed, I'd like to try and be in the moment. I'm not quite busy-minded. I'm not great at that.
Yeah, I think mental relaxation, one of the things I've learned the brain really likes is being creative. So whether that's reading or painting or writing or journaling or doodling or making something, that really does help the brain rest and relax and restore.
I've even found these moments where I decide I'm going to like redecorate, just painting, not doing it as it's got to be a chore, but just trying to like do the skirting boards and try not to make a mess, and it's so rewarding afterwards, and I've totally gotten into it.
I was looking some stats, as I said, and one of the ones that blew my mind is, on average, an adult looks at a screen for 7 hours a day.
Wow, that's actually
7 hours.
that is actually quite sad, really, isn't it?
Over the course of 24 hours, about 7 hours will be spent looking at a screen.
Yeah, I definitely have days like that, if not more, when I'm working. Because if you think about it, for a lot of us who work, it's, we're doing Zooms, we're doing our emails, whether we're writing our books or our proposals, everything is done on technology, whether it's our phones, laptops, or computers. It's crazy. So I love the idea of the brick.
I think.
Sorry, I was going to say that is sad.
It is, yeah.
I probably spend that many hours a day at a screen, and it's not all work. A lot of it is just looking at stuff that really I don't need to. And when you're actually surrounded by people that you love and want to engage with you, how sad is it that you're spending 7 hours a day?
I think we do a lot of this stuff, though, to escape boredom. But ironically, boredom is the gateway to rest.
Yeah.
So it's the very thing that we're doing is actually the polar opposite of what we should be doing, because we try to run away from boredom.
There's almost like a resistance to relaxing.
Yeah.
Which is, how weird is that?
Yeah.
It's a basic human need, and we kind of have a resistance to it.
Yeah.
Kind of almost stop it happening.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it? But yeah, that stat absolutely blew my mind.
Talking about your stats, my morning coffee's just kicking in now, and I'm caffeine. But do you know the first stat that you gave us, where your frontal cortex shrinks during times of chronic stress? Well, your cognitive function doesn't slow down at all. So what's happening is you're handing your cognitive function over to a different part of your brain, probably one that you don't really want to be giving control of your head.
The emotional brain,
And it was that bit I found really interesting.
Well, I think it is a really key point, because when you start to allow your emotions to dictate your life, you're in trouble.
Yes.
Because it influences your decision making and all of those kind of things, where we need that fine balance between logic and emotion. You don't want to be operating from the back part of the brain.
I always see the back part of the brain. It's like that out-of-tune radio. It's just noise. It's your fight and flight and all this other stuff. And if you're handing all your cognitive function over to that and not your frontal cortex, wow, what a downward spiral that's going to make.
Imagine that, allowing that part of the brain to run the show. I mean, those of you that have maybe read something like The Chimp Paradox, with the chimp's running the show. So you're very reactive, you're edgy, nothing's really coming from a place of logic.
Well, being as we're talking about rest, you're never going to rest while your fight and flight's, 80, 90, 100% activated, because that's what you've handed control to.
Yeah. And it's this continual stress that you place yourself under that removes your ability to relax. Like when I go on holiday, it takes me days to be able to wind down. Sometimes it's almost coming to the end of the holiday when you start to feel that point of relaxation kind of kicking in. And that's, again, is tragic. I mean, it takes a bit of time to unplug and wind down, but it shouldn't take you a week.
No, it shouldn't take you a week.
It shouldn't take a week at all.
That's how I always used to be. Not now. I'm actually becoming quite good at being on holiday, funny enough. But I'd always spend. I'd never go away for more than a week because I felt I couldn't because of the pressures of work. So then I'd spend 3 days trying to wind down and trying to relearn how to relax. Then I'd have 1 day where I was in the present, loving it, and then I'd spend the next few days stressing about what I had waiting for me when I got home. And it's like, well, that was a waste of a holiday, wasn't it?
Yeah, I kind of put my geek hat back on and lean back into the stats. But actually, consistently taking short periods of rest apparently boosts your productivity by 40%.
Yeah, we've got one of my son's friends living with us at the moment, and he's been studying for a resit he's had to do in university, and he actually downloaded an app where he studies for 25 minutes, then an alarm goes and he has to pause for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then he goes back in and sets it. But if he doesn't, he actually, like, you give money goes to charity. He has found, like, it has significantly helped because he's actually paused. He's found a way to study, and I think we can all use it for everything, and it's just a demonstration of how much he found that it helped him to have that moment where he goes out and has a cup of tea or goes and stands in the garden. Like, he physically leaves his room, stops studying, and if he doesn't, then money goes to charity. So, and he's out of pocket, but it's been a game changer for him, and I believe he's aced his exam, which has been amazing.
There's a huge contrast between focused effort versus busy, stressed. If you've ever had a day where you've been busy and stressed, and then afterwards you look at actually what you've managed to achieve across that day, it isn't actually that much. It's a false sense of achievement. But when you're in a focused state for a short period of time, I know this, I can get up early in the morning and do 30 minutes of focused work and do more than I'll achieve over 4 or 5 hours of a busy, stressful day.
Absolutely, and that is where your burnout comes from.
Yeah.
Periods of activity with a lack of production.
Yeah.
And it just absolutely batters you and sends you into a state of burnout.
It's like breakdancing in quicksand. It is though, isn't it? You just sink. You just absolutely sink. But I do think it kind of feeds back into what we've said before, this cultural expectation of do the grind. Don't rest.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is just a thought. Do we have to take control over the decision? It's actually a choice to rest, and we actually have to give ourselves permission to do it, because nobody else is going to give you permission to rest or say, some people might say you need to take a break, but in reality, we need to give ourselves permission, because everybody's always got an expectation from you, something that they need from you, something they want you to do. Could you just take a look at this?
It's coming back to last week's episode where we were talking about setting boundaries for yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We need to look at rest as we do with like food. We need fuel. We're consuming energy, so we take food in to give us fuel to burn. But the rest period is we've got to change this permanently on. Intense periods of activity with tiny little episodes of nothingness. That is where this issue really is, and you are responsible for creating that environment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, physically you do it. If you train, you have to have rest days.
Yeah.
They say you have to have your sleep. You need to have the right nutrition. But for some reason, with our minds, we don't seem to give it the same priority.
Yeah. So, how can people start to focus on creating rest or consistent periods of rest? I think that's the issue, is being consistent with rest. When you're maybe a person that is always on, always going, how do you even start to look at what needs to change?
I would start small. Don't go and have it be something that you want to do. Like if it's going out for a walk, make sure that you're focused on that walk. And because an example of going for a walk, when I had my dogs, I remember one time I was being really, really busy and I decided to take Emma dog for a walk, and I just frog marched. And then I got home and it's like, I almost had forgotten I'd even been on a walk because I wasn't there. I was just like doing the walk, so I had to get my dog walked and get home. So it's doing the walk, getting present, but finding anything where it's just like, as I said, it's as simple as I had with that one client, breathing 3 times. It doesn't have to be meditation. It can be drawing, creativity, sitting with that cup of tea in the morning and not picking up your phone, and just start small, make it manageable so it doesn't become this thing that's infringing on your life. It becomes part of your life, so it's integrated. So in the morning, like every morning, I start with a cup of coffee after having a glass of water, and I just sit there. I'm not working, I'm not picking up my phone, the kids aren't awake yet, And it's starting them and making it manageable and making it something that you can incorporate into your life. So I think when we're trying to change a habit and incorporate something in, or even when we're trying to let something go, we try and make it be really difficult. Or we make it like it's this big mountain, right? I've got to be peaceful, or I've got to meditate on a Zen cushion for an hour. It's like, no, don't do that. Do something that suits your personality. And some days I want to sit and chill and do nothing. Other days I need to be more physical. But yeah, definitely getting away from technology. Definitely having time where you're not triggered by the notifications. I have all notifications turned off. All of them. And my phone goes to complete silence. Like I have those. So just start to find ways that you can incorporate it into your life rather than having it be something that is imposing.
What would you say, Ian?
I'd say rest doesn't have to be anything extravagant. You know, it can just be taking 5 minutes to yourself, walking the dog.
Yeah.
You know, but you need to try and build it into your routine. So
Yeah.
I have, as if I'm 5 years old, I have a bedtime because I know that I have to have that amount of time to feel refreshed the next day.
Yeah.
And you know, at my best. So that's important to me. I'll make sure I do the gym 4 days a week. Ritualising is probably a bit over the top, but I do try and make it part of my routine and build it in. Something I'm going to do, because my wife listens to the podcast and then she says, you need to listen to what you're saying yourself, you know. Yeah, okay.
Busted.
Which is, I'm going to probably try this brick idea. I need to back away from my phone. That's the first thing I do. In the morning, it's sat there because the lads are in work before I am, and, you know, so that's something I really, really need to do. Just finding an hour where it's off, it's silent.
I think regardless of anything you do in your life, if you're going to take something new in, which in this case would be rest, relaxing, if you're going to bring something in, something needs to go out to create space for it. Because if you're going to continue to live your life the way you live it right now and it's pretty hectic and you go, I'm going to rest more, well, you're not, because there's no space for it in your life. You've got to create space for it. So if you're thinking, actually, this is really resonating with me, there's something I need to do, what you need to look at first of all is what you're going to kick out. Is it sitting on the sofa all weekend binge watching Netflix? Is it, technology, like Ian just talked about, the doom scrolling? Or is it actually learning to cancel some things and say no to some stuff? Fear of missing out kicks in, or the fear of letting people down. Because I think a lot of people listening to this would probably say, I wouldn't dare say to my friends, look, I'm going to cancel this Friday, I need to relax, I need a rest. They'd feel guilty doing that because they've let people down. You've been invited to a party or something like that, or a social engagement, and you go absolutely knackered, knowing you're burnt out, knowing you need to be back at work tomorrow, but you're like, their needs.
Funny enough, I had a young lad in the therapy room last week, and one of the things he was struggling was he couldn't say no to certain social groups. So he drinks down, well, actually I'm not going to say that, okay, but he socialises with a football group, another group, and then he's trying to find time with his girlfriend. So what's happening is he doesn't want to say no to anybody, but then he feels he's letting his girlfriend down, he's got no personal time, and he's got no money because he's spending it all going to the pub or the club or different places with his friend. And he's actually finding that 60% of the people that he's actually can't say no to, and he's encouraging him to drink, which isn't great for his anxiety, and the way that they speak to him makes him feel really rubbish about himself. They're not the kind of supportive friends. It's a negative form of banter that just isn't really healthy at all. But because he feels he can't say no, he's going along and then just sort of almost enduring it. But these are times when you're supposed to be resting and relaxing. So sometimes I was saying to him, like, if you're going to go and do that, well, phase out the people that are making you feel rubbish. This is supposed to be your time. You're supposed to be relaxing, and then you've got people around there that have constantly got you on edge because you're scared of what you're going to say in front of them.
Yeah.
They'll rip you apart, or you don't want to dance, or anything you say you're so self-conscious about, so you're constantly in this state of anxiety. It must be exhausting. And that's
If anybody
supposed to be your
guilt
downtime.
trips you for taking time out for you or not doing something that's right for you, well, they're not your people.
Yeah.
You know, we actually should get to a place of championing people for taking time out to look after themselves and not actually going making it all about you. Oh, you've let me down, you're not coming to my thing, and blah 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 blah. And the story we start to tell ourselves, going, I'm glad you're looking after yourself, and I hope you feel a bit, you feel a bit better. We should be encouraging people to do it, and that's, our family, our friends, but our colleagues, or if you employ people. You've worked really hard this week. Go have a rest. I hope you're going to unplug. What are you doing? I think as a society we need to encourage this more now than ever, and there shouldn't be guilt attached to it.
Yeah.
There really shouldn't. If you focus on just that very fact that if you rest, you're going to be 40% more productive. What could you do in your life if you were 40% more productive than you are today? That's a question you want to be asking yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the quality of your life is going to be better as well. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle in saying no, or the fear of letting people down. And the example that you gave there is that person needs to say, why am I doing this and who am I doing it for? Because it's not for me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've spoken in the past about cutting people out that were toxic to us.
Yeah.
It's being able to recognise that.
Yeah, toxic to us or toxic to our energy.
Yeah.
Places and situations that need to be learnt out. I mean, if you can literally just start by grabbing 3 minutes.
Yeah.
We talked earlier about somebody that said, I don't have time to take 3 breaths. Which is, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Just listen to what you've just listen to the story that you're telling yourself to justify to say that you can't do that, because that's you doing stress.
I was going to say, just another little thought. In that example we were just talking about, where you don't want to let people down because you feel that you're obligated. In reality, if you look at recharging, sort of you have got more of yourself to give to the people that deserve your time. If you recharge, you've got energy to give them. Spending it with people that, well, don't deserve it or don't make you feel rested, well, they're not giving you the energy for you to show up for yourself and for them.
Yeah.
So
are those people filling your cup, or are they taking from it?
Yeah.
That's the way to think about it. We've used the tube of Pringles analogy before. Are they taking Pringles out your tube, or are they putting Pringles back in your tube? And you need to look at that. And I think when you start to think of rest as a true investment in yourself, just like going to the gym and eating healthy food is probably one of the biggest investments you can make in yourself. You look after your car, you look after your mobile phone battery, you look after other things in your life, but they all come first before yourself. None of those things matter if you're not if you're not all right. So I would be like, sit down and think about, what do I need to learn to say no to? What do I need to kick out of my life to create space for rest so I can do it consistently? And if that's the only takeaway they take from this episode, productivity is going to go up 40%. You're the best investment you could ever make in yourself, which is taking time out and relaxing. Because, by the way, you'll come up with some great ideas when you're relaxing. It's been a really good conversation, and even myself, as we've been talking about this, I've reminded myself of some stuff that needs to be looked at, because nobody's perfect at this, are they? By any stretch of the imagination.
Well, it's a skill.
It is a skill.
You've got to learn,
yeah. And it's not about being perfect. It's just about being better at it than you are right now.
Yeah.
And getting what you need of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that pretty much brings this episode to a close. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please click the bell icon and the follow, subscribe. Same on Spotify and Apple. Please give us a like and a follow. It helps us to bring you more episodes. And we look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Tickety Boo. Thanks for watching.
If you or someone close to you needs to access mental health support, please contact your GP, or if it's out with normal office hours, get in touch with NHS 24 on 111. Alternatively, contact the Samaritans on 116 123. All calls are free of charge from any phone. You can also find more support information on the Tickety Boo website, ticketyboopodcast.co.uk.